Right now on the National Weather Desk, incredible pictures from California as a bomb site. Right now on the National Weather Desk, incredible pictures from California as a bomb cyclone hammers the state. Massive waves, powerful winds, and now flooding that could last for days.
Nothing even compares to something like this. This is unreal.
Further up the coast, winds take a toll on homes in Washington.
There was a lot of limbs coming down off of trees and stuff.
While the National Weather Service investigates possible tornadoes in the south.
There's significant damage here to some outbuildings, some barns, trees uprooted.
Roaming coyotes have pet owners in one community on alert.
I have a lot of friends who have lost cats or small dogs to coyotes.
What's killing bald eagles in one Virginia county?
That's something that we as people can do to change.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. We start this morning in California, where that intense bomb cyclone took a heavy toll on the state. At least 2 people are dead this morning, blamed on the storm, and flooding could last for days. Today, though, should be fairly calm, but another storm is actually on the horizon. Many roads across the state, look like this, covered with inches of water. More flooding is expected as rivers and creeks rise in the coming days. That could lead to more rescues like the one you're looking at right here. With up to 10 inches of rain possible over the next 10 days, everyone in the storm's path needs to stay alert. The powerful winds knocked out power across California. We checked now a short time ago, and 60,000 customers are still in the dark this morning. Now that's down from more than 180,000 this time yesterday. The outages sent people to emergency shelters and even some warming centers.
When I went to bed last night, it said 73 on my thermostat. But when I woke up, it said 60 something. I think we're getting too much rain at one time.
The winds also took down trees, damaging homes and businesses. A woman was heating her food in her kitchen one moment. The next, look at this, a tree had crashed through her roof. But she's keeping a good sense of humor about all of this. Jean Cook says there's a lesson in this situation.
Unwelcome visitor. Well, my husband had been after me to take that tree down. And I said, it's not our tree. And he said, it's going to fall on the house. And I said, you know how. That isn't that important, but he was right. I was wrong. All my view out my windows are tree. Yeah, it's kind of maddening. Cut down your digger pines because they will fall on your house. Take it from me who didn't believe it.
And you can see her there smiling. A California Highway Patrol officer was injured when a tree fell on his car. He was responding to an accident during the storm when the tree fell along Highway 17 in San Jose. It was just one of more than 150 weather reports officers had to respond to. The officer was injured, but he is, good news, expected to be okay. In Oakland, a large eucalyptus tree fell on an apartment complex. Thankfully, No one was injured, but several families had to find somewhere else to stay. The storm here, of course, creating massive waves along the California coast. Now, you are looking at video from Capitola during high tide. At this video right here, you can see waves crashing and the water crashing into buildings in some cases. Some people had to be evacuated. A similar scene is playing out only a few miles away in Santa Cruz. Reporter Rich Rodriguez shows us what happened.
Longtime residents of Santa Cruz say they've never seen such a high tide move this far inland. This is the view as the water moves under the Stockton Avenue Bridge. The water keeps flowing and crashes at the front doors of many homes. Dane Nabal thought he was a safe distance away as he was shooting video of the waves in Santa Cruz. The water washed up 100 yards on shore.
I've lived here for 37 years, and today's the biggest I've ever seen the ocean with the most storm surge. I mean, nothing even compares to something like this. This is unreal.
A few miles up the coastline, the Capitola and Seacliff piers were heavily damaged by the pounding surf. They'll remain closed until further notice. The same goes for a popular attraction in the tourist town of Capitola.
The village is going to be closed until we can figure out what our damages are and when it's safe to reopen the village.
High winds and high surf combined for a destructive Thursday along the California coast.
Like I said, I've never seen the ocean this angry before.
And meteorologist Brian Vandegraff is here now with a look at what's next for California.
Well, as we look into the weekend, Angela, the good news is that it's not as active. There'll be a few waves that'll come through that'll bring some added rain and a little bit of snow, but not an exorbitant amount. However, so much rain has fallen thus far. All those creeks, rivers, tributaries are all basically at the edges of their banks, so it could add some concern. But as we head into Monday, watch this setup. This is that atmospheric river in the atmosphere, and look what we have here. This funnel bringing another batch of intense moisture as we head into your Monday next week. So even though there'll be a little lull this weekend, here we go into Monday, and you see with these darker red colors, 5-6+ inches of rain on top of what's already fallen could lead to more intense issues as we head into early next week.
And now we're heading to Western Washington. Cleanup efforts continue, after strong winds slammed the area Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. Let's go to Richmond, where Karina Vargas spoke to folks who had a mess on their hands.
Strong winds caused this fence to fall just as Jane Wooey and her partner moved into their new home all the way from New York.
It's kind of like a surprise that Seattle gave us because we didn't expect that it would be so windy and the fence just came down.
Wind gusts of up to 55 miles per hour hit this area in Redmond, leaving tree branches and debris scattered across the road and on people's yards. Others, like Mark Smith, are cleaning up and say it was an eventful night as they heard tree branches fall on their roof.
The wind came up, there were some big heavy gusts. We could see the trees starting to stir and we knew it was on the way. Then we lost power for about an hour. I came out in the yard and looked at all the debris that was on the ground.
Tree cleanup crews were also out working to remove trees that were up to 100 feet long that fell on people's homes. Now, Eastside Tree Works says with the recent weather events, they're getting an overwhelming amount of calls.
Especially after the ice storm that we had, there was a lot of limbs coming down off of trees and stuff. So there was a lot. We did a lot of emergency work just in the last couple months.
Well, not everyone in Washington is feeling the winds equally. As meteorologist Theron Zahn explains, it's the mountains in the region that are causing this discrepancy.
You can see the winds whipping these trees here in Western Washington. We're at the base of the Cascades here, and you might be wondering, how is it possible for the mountains to actually affect wind speeds? Well, we have some Cascade gaps, basically gaps in the Cascade Range not far from here. Wind speeds increase as they shoot out of those Cascade gaps and across the lowlands. And you can see this is a tire shop here with the generator on this morning because the power is out. These stoplights not working. Again, because these winds are pretty localized at this point. If you're about 20 miles away from here, the winds are nearly calm.
When severe weather strikes, as it did this week in the South, the National Weather Service sends out meteorologists into the field. They decide if the storm was a tornado or even something else. Amanda Kenseth's reporting from a damaged home in Conway, South Carolina, when the investigators were there.
Heavy winds tore down trees and toppled structures in Conway. Carl Morgan is the detective on scene of the aftermath. He's a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, here to determine if the damage was caused by a tornado.
There's significant damage here to some outbuildings, some barns, trees uprooted, some trees snapped.
Evidence like this helps to determine wind speed. Investigators must also search for signs of rotating winds, since straight-line winds can cause just as much, if not more, damage.
What some people don't understand is that, a weak tornado could produce, 70 mile per hour winds. A microburst could produce winds, or a straight-line wind damage could, be winds over 100 miles per hour.
Ultimately, whether or not the clues indicate a tornado, we know the culprit is Mother Nature.
And the National Weather Service determined the damage was not from a tornado, but instead from microburst winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. And now to this eye-popping video out of Hawaii, capturing the Kilauea volcano erupting once again. The volcano started spewing lava last month. It took a break and is now back at it. As you can see, officials say it does not pose any hazard, at least right now, but they elevated the volcano's alert level to a warning. This comes on the heels of the Mauna Loa erupting late last year. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll talk with an expert about how weather observation sites are helping citizens prepare for severe weather, and a look at how weather impacts different animals. That's next.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. We look at the Northeast. We have a final round of rain and snow moving in today. It's been an active week of weather around here. Notice as we go throughout the afternoon, 2 o'clock or so, we're seeing rain through southeastern parts of Massachusetts, parts of western Mass, going New Hampshire, Maine. You're still dealing with some snowfall here with some light accumulation. Saturday, clouds and sun. Temps will be running in the 30s and low 40s. The weekend is looking storm-free in the Northeast. Areas in the darker shade of blue, it's probably 1 to 3 inches of snow.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Starting off a little bit cooler with 30s and 40s early on Friday. During the afternoon, some patchy clouds and temperatures getting to about 45 to 50. So it will be a cooler day, a little bit more, I'd say, back to reality in the wake of our latest weather maker taking rain off into New England. A dry and cooler day, and it turns maybe even chillier yet as we head into the weekend with high temperatures in the 40s by then. That's seen here.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Michael Larenberg. Here's a look at your Southeast regional forecast for this Friday. Cool front continues to push offshore. In its wake, dry air as high pressure builds over the southeastern states. A ton of sun, no rain, no thunderstorm activity, no severe weather. So nice break of the action, at least for a few days, it looks like anyway. High temperatures, a wide range out there. 50s, Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville. We're looking for 60s for southern South Carolina to the Gulf Coast of the Florida Panhandle. 70s in central and South Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Wind is invisible, but its effects live in plain sight. This is one example from the week. High winds blew down this barn in Shady Valley, Tennessee. Here's what it looked like before Tuesday. And these two anhingas perched in a sweet gum tree. It was a pleasant Thursday in the Charleston, South Carolina area, where temperatures were in the high 60s to low 70s.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Maryland is joining a long list of states adding a network of weather observation sites to create a better system for warning citizens about severe weather. Emily Gracie recently spoke to an emergency manager to find out how this Mesonet will help increase warning times and also save lives.
It's really a system of systems because there's weather stations that will be throughout the state, and it'll be gathering information, but giving that information to the National Weather Service so that number one priority, we can alert people for floods and alert people for wind faster than we have in the past. So when it comes time for a tornado, it may give us additional seconds to get a warning now, and that could save somebody's life. Flash flooding, it may give us maybe several minutes ahead of time. That'll save somebody's life. The Doppler radar system is absolutely fabulous, but it does not necessarily get the ground truth that a Mesonet system throughout a state can gather.
Does this exist anywhere else? Does any other state have a Mesonet?
I think we are joining as number 29 of the 50 states that have a Mesonet system. We are the first state, to the best of my knowledge, that has been able to obtain the funding so that we could build out the system immediately.
You mentioned the National Weather Service. Are there any other systems in the state that will benefit and use a Mesonet?
Yes. I think there are several. First off, we have a pretty extensive system through the Maryland Department of Transportation where they're constantly monitoring road conditions, but they will benefit from it. Department of Transportation will benefit from it. Department of Agriculture would benefit from it. Department of Health from weather climate changes and what that may do to some of the health concerns. And then for us, from a preparedness perspective, we'll have data that'll be built up over time that's going to tell us historically what has happened. We can bring all of that together and have better and more effective plans for local areas of the state as well as our statewide perspective.
Severe weather can have major impacts on our day-to-day lives, but it can also impact wildlife as well. So let's take a look at the different ways weather affects the animals around us. And we'll start in Northern Virginia. We're getting calls about loose pets, wild raccoons, and even deer can be normal for animal control. But recently calls about eagles are becoming commonplace. And it's, as Joy Wang explains, a lot of it has to deal with hunting season and what hunters are leaving behind.
This is where Stafford County found an eagle with an injured wing back in August. But get this, they've actually found a handful of eagles in the county, and a lot of them tend to have one thing in common.
To see a lot of the ones that we pick up that go to these wildlife centers and they're positive for such lead toxicity, it's like that's something that we as people, hunters, can do to change. Even me as a fisherman, I try not to use lead weights and things like that for that reason.
Eagles are scavengers, so if a hunter butchers a fish or deer and leaves scraps after using lead pellets or ammunition, eagles will scavenge, may ingest the lead, and get lead poisoning. That's why the county animal control is asking hunters here to also consider using non-lead ammunition. This time of year, January and February, animal control tends to see more of these injured eagles. And I'm told that has to do with hunting season, breeding season, and the time eagles are hunting for their territory. After capturing these eagles, then the department reaches out to Virginia Wildlife or Blue Ridge in order to try and rehabilitate them. But unfortunately, because a lot of them are experiencing a lot of lead toxicity, many of these eagles have to be euthanized.
Well, eagles are not the only animals making headlines. Take a look at these images of coyotes in Seattle roaming around. You can see here in the middle of the day, it has pet owners on high alert. Let's go to Seattle, where Elise Stoll tells us where they've been spotted and what role the weather plays in these sightings.
Neighbors who are here in Montlake worry at least 2 of them have been feeding on rabbits. They've seen the carcasses and they worry their pets are next. The unusual picture snapped just a few weeks ago near the Montlake Bridge. A coyote on the sidewalk in the middle of the day. The same street Renee Holland walks on her way to the UW campus.
All of these trails that we have
We take advantage of them, but so do the coyotes.
Another picture from across the street shows a coyote going through the garbage. Neighbors tell us they've been seen on UW's campus and in the Arboretum. In August, neighbors in Magnolia shared video of a coyote hunting a cat, many posting about missing pets on the Nextdoor app. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife manages issues with coyotes. They recommend owners feed pets indoors. If you have to feed them outside, pick up any leftovers. Fish and Wildlife say they haven't seen any hot spots develop around the city, but we might be seeing more of them during the day because of the icy weather we've been having at night. Those dens and those feeding grounds might be too tough to get into, so unfortunately, they're out hunting during the day more often.
You know, some animals have grown to depend on humans for survival. One example of that is the Chinook salmon. Recently, 150 of them were released into the Sacramento River. Tyler Van Dyke explains why and how the weather plays a role in the timing of their release.
The Chinook salmon in the Sacramento River are super special to our community.
For the second year in a row, Turtle Bay Exploration Park teamed up with Coleman Fish Hatchery to release more than 150 Chinook salmon into the Sacramento River Tuesday. Sharon Clay, the curator of animal programs at Turtle Bay, says it's part of a conservation program for the protected fish that are important to the area.
There's different runs of the Chinook salmon, and most rivers will have one or two of them. But the Sacramento River through here actually has all four runs. And Chinook salmon are so important because they're important to the entire environment. So we really need them in our system.
The salmon are only about a half-inch in size when the hatchery gives them to Turtle Bay to raise for a year.
So by doing that, they're going to be bigger and stronger, and it's going to give them a head start into life. So our part of the program involves caring for the fish for a year and educating the public. So we want the public to really take a moment and look at the salmon in the river and appreciate them.
They have the salmon on display at the park until they are released on a wet weather day.
Choose the rainy weather to release them, usually just right before a big storm hits, because the river is going to start getting really rough and things are going to get turned up. And by that happening, and an increase in the turbidity or the murkiness in the water is going to give them cover from predators and gives them a better chance of surviving and making their way down the river out to the ocean.
And as we head to break, here's a look at Bedford Buffalo Ranch from above.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest for the day today. Pretty light flurries and light snow potentially for some of us, but otherwise dry for the majority of the Midwest for the day today. Got a little rain snow mix heading into Missouri and southern Illinois on Saturday, but again, pretty dry for most of the Midwest. That works its way up towards the Ohio Valley on Sunday, but plenty of sunshine out across the plains for Sunday, and temperatures running just a little above normal for most of us.
And a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchet. Look at our forecast today across the region, and starting off with 40s and 50s for most of the region. The afternoon, really not all that bad. 60s, a little windy into Amarillo. 70s out ahead of a front with a lot of sunshine. Mid-50s into Little Rock. The weekend forecast, Saturday, a little bit of cloud cover along this front. May get a few sprinkles or showers as well. And late in the day, Saturday and Saturday night, could actually see a couple thunderstorms around the Houston area.
Well, hi there and a good Friday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, the problems continue to focus on the Golden State. More periods of heavy rain for the San Francisco Bay Area, back on into L.A. Showers arriving back towards Seattle and Portland as well. Temps cool in Phoenix, just 65 degrees, sounding very pleasant there in the desert Southwest. Next weather maker, this big disturbance approaching the I-5 corridor by the Friday evening commute. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Our meteorologists all over the country post great content to their social media accounts. To keep up with their latest posts, follow us on your favorite social media account. Here's the latest from Salt Lake City meteorologist Lindsay Storrs.
No two snowflakes are alike. And while that is true, we can actually classify snowflakes based on their shape. If the temperature is between 25 and 32 degrees, you get snowflakes that look like thin plates. Between 21 and 25 degrees, snowflakes that look like small needles form. 14 to 21 degrees, the snowflakes will be hollow columns, and stellar plates form when the temperature is 10 to 14 degrees. Dendrites form between 3 and 10 degrees. 8 degrees below zero to 3 degrees above zero is when the stellar plates form again, and if the temperature is more than 8 degrees below zero, the hollow columns make a return. Humidity can also determine the shape that forms. If you've got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, we tend to get more intricate shapes. When you have less moisture in the atmosphere, the shapes tend to be pretty simple.
And thank you for joining us Monday on the National Weather Desk. California has seen a ton of rain, and the drought-ridden state is not letting any of it apparently go to waste. We'll show you how all of that rain is being put to some very good use. I'm Angela Brown. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.